Hey guys, so in response to the TED Talk on PXE, I decided to start doing some research on the pros and cons of data sharing. So, one of the main benefits that I came across was the argument that data sharing really does help us generate better science. And data sharing can enhance our understanding of results and help us extend scientific discoveries beyond what we could learn from an individual study. So, in order for science to continue moving forward and for us to continue expanding our knowledge base, we really need all of the evidence and all the facts and all of the data that we can have access to, which is where data sharing really comes into play. Data sharing can also really lead to better patient outcomes, which is what we strive for mainly, especially in nursing care. So when an individual enters like a research trial or a research study, they typically do so with the idea that the information that is gained from the study will be used to help other individuals who are going through the same thing as them or something similar to them. And this is more likely to happen if the data that is accrued is widely shared and widely readily available for everyone to use. So it seems that whenever data is shared, whether or not it's voluntary, new and important things are learned. Also, it does seem that there's been a cultural shift and people are really starting to realize the importance and the value of data sharing. Therefore, now it's almost more that we're focusing on how we can share this information with each other rather than focusing on why we're sharing it with each other. And one example that I thought of when this came to mind was Epic and MyChart. So I'm sure a lot of you guys use Epic, and with Epic, we are able to look at our patients' like past medical history all online. We can see old hospital visits, old doctor visits, as long as everybody's uses MyChart. And then again, patients are able to use MyChart at home too, where they can see their own information at home. So I think this is one really good example of how we're starting to put data sharing into our everyday lives. So also there's another documentary on HBO that's called Life According to Sam, and this documentary kind of highlights the same ideas and theories as the TED Talk on PXE does. So Sam has progeria, which is another extremely rare, like rapidly aging disease process, and his family faces the same or similar struggles because of how rare the disease is. They aren't able to find much information on it. There's not a lot of research that has been conducted on it. So his family too works on finding a cure for the disease, and they end up taking on the research themselves. They develop the Progeria Research Foundation, and they too find the gene that's associated with progeria. So with regards to your second discussion topic, I kind of have a hard time with this one because before I watched the documentary on Sam or saw the TED Talk about PXE, I probably would have said that I felt like research funding should really be granted more towards the common illnesses because it kind of makes sense, right? We think about it, more people are facing the disease, more people are going through it, so obviously we should put more research behind managing it, correct? But once you start to hear these people's stories, you start to think about how hard it must be to be the individual or the family who's dealing with such a rare or unknown disease. I can't even imagine what it would be like to find out that your child had an incurable disease and then come to know that there's really no research behind the disease process or how to manage it. So this makes me understand kind of why these families end up taking on the research themselves. But to me, this seems like completely unfair and a little bit unethical. I understand that funding is competitive and that with these rare diseases, there's such a small sample of patients, so funding is hard to get mainly because of like economic reasons, but these individuals are humans too, and I think just because there's a small population of them doesn't really make it ethically correct to just leave them in the dust. So there's an act that was created which was called the Orphan Drug Act, and this defines rare diseases and disorders that are affecting less than 200,000 individuals in the U.S. And this act was created to help bring these rare diseases and disorders to light. Since it was enacted, 390 new drugs have been created for rare diseases, and this is in comparison to 10 drugs that were available before this act. So I think we really just need to keep continuing to support acts such as this one, because ethically I think everyone deserves the right to live a healthy life. And in order to continue growing as a scientific community, I think data sharing is one of the things we can continue to improve on. Again, science shouldn't be a competition. It's really all about striving for the best patient outcomes, the best thing for our patients, and how we can use data to continue expanding our knowledge base about these diseases and disorders that they're going through.